welcome back. So, welcome back for another episode number 2. Um, Still trying to work around with trying to see what I'm gonna be talking about and all that kind of stuff. But it's fine. It's fine. That's all that matters. Just trying to figure things out, right? So on this one, I kind of try to keep it shorter than the other one. I already have like an alarm here and everything, so that way I can like maintain track what I'm doing. And so I wanted to talk about how should I label this? I guess the being a neurodivergent person and just ADHD and the mental struggles of people, and I guess learning to adapt and get help and all that kind of stuff, right? So hear me out, right? Sounds weird and everything like that, but as probably already mentioned this before in either the previous episode or in one of my streams on Twitch or on YouTube, is that gaming streams, of course, is that I've been diagnosed with ADHD at a very young age, right? So for many people, there are many people out there that struggle with the same concept of being diagnosed properly by somebody and basically like, hey, like your kid has ADHD, which means attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. There are other variants of it, like ADD and that kind of stuff. There's quite a few to name out there when it comes to just having some sort of mental. The best level I can put is like mental impairment. I'm not sure if that's the right word for it, but that's not what I'm calling it. I wouldn't say it's a disability. It just impairs a lot of different things for us. For many people, they associate more with hyperactive kids, mood swings, inability to focus. There's a lot of things that we can break down about it, but I'm not going to do so. All I can say is I encourage you to do your own research and figure out what it means and just have the knowledge. So that way you have a perspective about what you think about it and stuff like that. So, but yeah, let's just go back in the topic in hand, and that is to say, at least for me. So for me, again, I got diagnosed by a young age, and the psychologist or therapist, I keep forgetting the right title for it, is highly recommended to basically, get medication, go to therapy sessions, and to figure stuff out. Feel so long ago, I can barely remember most of the details. My grandparents, I was raised by my grandparents, right? So being in a semi-traditional country and then being raised by my grandparents, they definitely were supported, and I'm always will be grateful for the kind of person that they raised me to be, and all that kind of stuff. One of the things that they struggle a lot with me is understanding the mental health aspect of things, right? So, and I cannot blame them whatsoever about that. It's not only stems for like my grandparents, but it's just the country that I was raised. Mental health is right now for the last couple of years has been slowly being acknowledged, and people are more aware of it. Compared to here in the U.S. and the mainland, where it's so much more developed, I would like to say, right? So for me, it's where do we begin? So for me, I always been kind of like misunderstood about it, right? So there's all different kinds of label when it comes to it, and undisciplined, unfocused, rude, never seems to inconsistent, being never accomplishing or taking responsibility seriously. It's a long list of things, right? So again, my grandparents were very supportive, just didn't understand it that much. What a and the struggles that comes with it on a daily basis, and that's totally fine. At least for me, like I at first when I went to medication, I think it was Adderall if I remember. It's been so long ago, right? So for me, Adderall came with with a lot of side effects physically that really it did not. It was very detrimental to just doing stuff in general. Like I always felt like I was like sick, almost no appetite. I always feel like I was in a foggy mind. I can never seem to concentrate or seem to be motivated for anything, right? So it came to a point where I kind of to decided that it was enough, you know. So I talked to my psychologist, yeah, right. I don't remember his name. I'll be honest. It was a very hard name to remember. He came from Germany actually. That much I remember. He was German, and he came to Puerto Rico and became a psychologist, all that kind of stuff. I always remember his very cool motorcycle, a German motorcycle. He was an old dude in his early 60s back then. And man, I will never forget it. I will never forget him just because of how gentle and caring and God, he was such a very empathetic human being, right? So, like best way I can say that he was so kind, really, really kind, right? So, but yeah, so I talked to him. I also talked to my grandparents about it to just get off the medicine after a little bit of a while, right? I explained them the reasons why somewhat, as best as I could put it, of course. And my psychologist was like, hey, like I definitely understand and everything like that, but you gotta understand that this is gonna snowball into all this kind of stuff, all this behavior and decision making, all that kind of stuff. He was kind of breaking it down so I can understand what it's gonna look like for me, and and I said that's fine. Of course, I didn't know like how bad it was gonna be at first, but I got out of the medication. I decided not to go on medication, just to go with the flow at the moment. I don't remember much, but I remember that first year was it was eventful. Let me put it that way. It was eventful. It was definitely eventful, and so but it's fine. So at least for me, it came to a point where I had enough about me being defined by my impairment, my mental impairment, and always seem to consider it less than a human being by people, peers, classmates, family members, you name it, right? And and so I decided to work on it somehow, figure it out, and so it took me a lot of trials and errors and ups and downs, a lot of hitting myself against the wall until I realized, oh, there's a wall, I need to find a different direction, kind of thing. That kind of stuff. It was definitely a journey. It still am, honestly, even to at this point in my age, and so again, it just for me, it just stems from being alienated and feeling like I was some sort of best term I can put it is a black sheep within a herd of community of white sheep, I guess you could say, So especially me being in special education, with being considered a special kid, all kinds of stuff. God, I could break it down, and I understand. I really do understand where people come from with that, and that is to say that that for the most part, I just wanted to having fun, doing something that was stimulating. Like playing video games, going out with my friends, doing stuff. Boys be boys, I guess. What else? Just not doing important stuff that was boring, like responsibilities, schoolwork, helping my grandparents out. I still do it. It's just reluctantly, like, I gotta do the dishes, or like, I gotta mop, or do the lawn, that kind of stuff, So, definitely. But one thing I would say is that I would like to say that I was blessed with finding friends, childhood friends, during my time in school that I was blessed with, that they exactly understood where I was coming from when it comes to that, but they were more than accepting of who I am, or but who I am as a person, even with that impairment or character flaws outside of the mental ones, and that kind of stuff. They said to me, and it's like, hey, like, you're my friend. And everything. Like, right now, they're still my best friends even to this day. I can literally at any time call them and be like, hey, I'm going to some stuff, I want to talk. They'd be like, okay, what's up, what do you need, brother? God, I like to say I'm blessed with those kind of friends. They know who they are. I mean, so yeah. But moving on. The thing is, it was very difficult being misunderstood, being labeled different kinds of names and titles and stuff like that. And definitely, I would not say that that they're bad people for saying or thinking that stuff. It's just they didn't have the knowledge that they possess right now, or the awareness. Because again, mental health is not something that was really developed back when I was growing up. So I always felt like I was in this island surrounded by the sea and by myself, and I couldn't exactly relate to people with the same traits, And so, but moving forward with that is that I work on this, creating certain habits. I could talk for hours about it. But honestly, the thing is that I put in the work, and I develop and I work around with mitigating those, just how my mind works and everything like that, especially when it came to that point when I had to be an adult. For me, it was difficult, but also somewhat easy, because at least from my upbringing, again, I was raised with my grandparents and by myself. Yes, I had my cousin for a while. I love him to death. Oh God, he's such a fun dude to have around. And I have a small window opportunity to be with my siblings when they were staying with me and my grandparents for a small time. And but outside of that, for the most part, I was raised by myself. Just me and my grandparents. And so, being of an advanced age, they depended on me to do certain things that they cannot physically do, or they were having a very hard time to do so. Just doing the lawn, doing some chores, doing some repairs on the house, that kind of stuff. Again, I'll be first one to admit, reluctantly so, because all I wanted to do was just to have fun, I guess a kid being a kid, But moving on for that, so but yeah, so again, it's I guess I would like to say that right now at this point, I'm proud for able to not let it define me. You know what I mean? So I still have my moments. Definitely have my moments where I revert back to just only wanting to do fun stuff, not to deal with any responsibilities or anything like that. Being undisciplined or inconsistent, you name it, all kinds of stuff. But I definitely have improved a lot throughout the years as I developed, as I understood more how my mind works and the kind of habits that I establish on a daily basis, my morning routine, my afternoon routine, what do I do before work, during work, and after work, and just my train of thought when it comes to the priorities I set upon myself when it comes to doing stuff. Again, just develop, and it was definitely an uphill battle. I'll be honest. It was a lot of trials and errors, like I mentioned. But I got to a point where I can say, like, hey, I'm proud of getting to this point, It's not about nullifying more than anything, it's mitigating. Because at the end of the day, I'm gonna have this sort of again, impairment is the best way I can put it. Is this impairment until the day I die? So it's the only thing I can do. Just work on it every day, because every day it's gonna be a struggle in some way or another. You know. So and that's totally fine. At least for me, again, it was hard, but it was kind of easy to able to focus on the fact that there was people depending on me and have expectations, and so I needed to be available for them, and I mean emotionally, mentally, and physically. And so, because there are times where like just doing certain stupid stuff that any person would be like, oh, I can do it in 5 minutes and be nothing. For me, it would be like, oh god, that's gonna drain me of my energy or something. So for me, it's not only on my grandparents were depending on me in certain stuff and everything, but also right now as it stands in my household. And I don't like to say this because like it seems like I'm putting myself the title. And I try not to. I promise I try not to. And that is that I'm the head of the household. So with that, it comes some expectations, responsibilities, and just stuff in general. And so I have to be again available and be able to do all that stuff, because at the end of the day, it's bigger than myself. It's for other people. And so with having that in mind, I was able to help to kind of focus on that train of thought of like, hey, like yeah, I'll do some stuff for fun for myself. I'll probably like play like an hour or two of video games, or read a book, or I don't know, stuff. But at the end of the day, I have to be available for those that need me, And so at least that was my train of thought when it comes to like working around not only my impairment, I guess, or ADHD, or how my brain works, but also my character flaws. Because at the end of the day, my mental ADHD and my character flaws are two different things, right? So I had to be able to separate and know that whenever it's ADHD or it's just me, and not being my best version, right? Because that's basically all I can do, And so again, that also another topic to talk in hand is just the development of that when it comes to people with being neurodivergent versus neurotypical people, right? So at least for me at work, I have gotten to the point where my workplace, I can operate to almost to the same levels as somebody who's neurotypical, and many people from the outside would not even think like, oh yeah, no, he's like a normal guy. I mean, I'm still a human being and everything. It's just I can. Just because my mind works differently, it does not mean, and I process things differently and I feel things differently, does not mean that I feel any less, If anything, sometimes I feel more, especially when it comes to emotions. I guess you could say that there's a term for it. I think it's emotional dysregulation. I think it's part to be attached to ADHD or ADD or something like that. Again, I'm still learning things as I go when it comes to just this sort of thing, but yeah, it's again, like I was saying, with the workplace, I got to a point where I can like just hustle and just do things almost like a normal human being would do. It's very draining though, of course, because getting to even get to someone to that same level, it's an all or nothing effort. And usually I try to do things 100% effort, and that can be draining. But again, it's just with that, and also taking care of stuff here at home and responsibilities, it helped me create that mental fortitude of I have the responsibilities, and there's people expecting me to do these things because of this position. And even if they don't expect me to, I like to think that I have to be available for them when they need help, suggestions, advice, all that kind of stuff. I'm not the wisest guy, the smartest. I think I'm very far from it. I can be very proud, arrogant, just character flaws in general. But I do like to think that based on the hardships that I have, besides of ADHD, but also just the life events that have happened for the last 7 years, I can definitely say that I can give a tip or two about certain things that you should do or should not do, right? And so that also comes with this next part of things, and that is The next thing that I learned is not learn, but I want to talk about is knowing when to ask for help. That comes with the double-edged sword of having been always the somebody dependable for others to reach out and ask for help and stuff like that. And that is when the roles are reversed. For me, it is, at least for the last 2 years, I realized that it is such a hard thing to do. Because in my mind, and this comes from a quote from Wentworth Miller, actor for Michael Scofield from Prison Break. If not, you also may know him as Captain Cole from CW's The Flash. Anyways, and the quote follows as this: "Let me be to someone else what no one was to me." So, for me, I just want to be that person because I feel like there's quite a couple of people out there, at least the ones that I know. There's a couple of people that they didn't have that, they were in that similar position where they didn't have that person or group of people to go ahead and rely on and be able to reach out for help or advice or suggestions. And so I've learned a lot to swallow my pride, let my ego die at the moment, and reach out for help. That has been quite the uphill battle, I'll be honest with you. It was really difficult, even to this day. It still is difficult. It's very much the same level of difficulty as right now. But I'm slowly learning to let go of that pride, I guess. Because for me, I always think about like, I can always figure things out by myself, because I always do. I really do. And again, I guess it stands for me in having just working things out by myself as much as I can, not burdening other people, and also because being easily misunderstood, it's just part of it, you know. So, but yeah, it's just because at the end of the day, as much as I hit myself against the wall, I need to work around that wall. And so with asking somebody else for help, I could just be like, hey, so I hit myself against this wall like 4 times. I don't know what to do with it. I need help. Do you have any suggestions or something? The other person would be like, oh yeah, just go here to the left, just go around, and you should be around it. You should be good. And I go and be like, oh, damn, I didn't know that. I appreciate that. I'll just go and do that. If it works out, it works out. I'm like, oh, damn, I didn't consider that. I learned something. If it didn't work out for me, then, I just go back and be like, hey, that didn't work out so well. So any other suggestions? Like, oh, yeah, no worries, I got you. And we'll just try things in a different way or figure another way how to do it. It's able to reach out and be more than comfortable with saying, hey, I don't know what the hell am I doing. And I don't think I figured this out by myself, so I need somebody else. So it's alright to borrow blueprints from somebody else in order to construct and go through the process of figure things out and get to the point where you need to be. Make sense? So again, there's no shame in that, and that also helped me with understanding that other people, as much as I like to say that other people won't understand me or anything like that, more often than not, people will understand some certain struggles that I go through, mentally, emotionally, financially, you name it, So with that being said, it also stems from me because I try to be as the best version of myself as possible, and the only reason I say this is because for so long I have always compared myself to my peers. I'm talking about classmates or certain family members, or heck, even siblings for that matter. Just compare myself, and I always felt like for a lot of my peers or classmates that had graduated and moved on through life and had established themselves to be adults and everything like that, because let me tell you, adulting freaking sucks. Moving on for that though. It's the fact that I see a lot of them that seem like they figure their things out a lot. Or at least I see it through social media or whatever pictures or updates they do with live events. Getting married, they have a family or kids, they buy a house or that kind of stuff. At least for me, I have for the last 6-7 years, it has been a lot of, for me personally, a lot of setbacks, a lot of restarts, a lot of ups and downs. I go and try to do this way and then all this, and for me it was really frustrating to all those years to somewhat look like I have progress and then start from zero quite a couple of times, which is totally fine. It happens. Everybody has their own life clock. It's just very hard when I'm that kind of person where I try to compare myself to somebody else and I'm like, I want to get to that level, and it seems like I'm being competitive, but not really. I just usually don't see myself as somebody worth being compared to, I guess you could say. And yeah, no, definitely. And but then I learned that nobody has things figured out. Like, yeah, that some people have more experience than others and everything like that, but everybody's kind of winging it, in some sort of sense or some sort of level. And so the best thing I can do for myself is, the only person I could compare to is myself and who I was a day ago, a week ago, a month ago, a year ago, 5 years ago. You know what I mean? It's always having that comparison to myself, because all the answers, all the changes that I want to do are within myself, And so, at least that's how I see it, me personally, right? But yeah, so yeah, it's still working on it. Adulting and everything really freaking sucks. And at least for me, like, having to learn it the very much the hard way and mostly by myself. Again, that's one of the small thing to say or to note is the fact that, at least for somebody like me who was raised by my grandparents, it's definitely one of the biggest blessings you can ever have. But one thing I like to mention, and it's kind of sad to mention, is the fact that the biggest disadvantage to it is, before I just wish I had the realization that all these things of being an adult, I would have figured, like, I wish I could go back and ask these questions so I can know what I'm doing and figure things out sooner. Be like, hey, like, I got tasks to do, I got this to figure out, I'm doing this at work and this stuff and all sorts of stuff, and I'm here like, all right, let me turn around, let me ask my grandpa or something. And when I look around and I'm here realizing, like, oh, they're not here anymore. They don't really have a lot of time, and so it's very regrettable to realize that, and not having them to to ask those questions to help me guide to this world of uncertainty and a lot of unknowns and a lot of things to figure out, and growth and development, So that's, life happens, and so I had to, like, don't get me wrong though, I still have my siblings and my parents, and not saying they're bad people or anything like that, because if not, I can literally go ahead and call them and ask them certain questions that they're more than they're willing to answer me. But it's a different level of interaction compared to my grandparents, where they know me, they raised me since I was a baby, and they know every inch and every train of thought behind me, So but that's, again, life happens. All I can do is just move forward and not only try to make them proud, and be proud of myself and all the accomplishments that I've done, or the way that I develop as a human being, of course. So, yeah. So yeah, so that's all I can do, and I guess I think that's all I have for right now, at least for this episode. Um, I think the message that I could have tried to say a message for every episode, at least for something that y'all can relate or be inspired, or motivated, or something along those lines, however you want to label it, and that is the trust the process, and whatever changes that need to happen for you, only you yourself can get them. And never shy or feel ashamed for asking for help. But there are more often than times somebody out there within your group of friends or family members or or even coworkers, because I can say that I have the blessing that I have coworkers that they are outside of work, they're friends, and that help me out in different ways, and that is to ask for help, and ask for advice, suggestions, or anything like that, because at the end of the day, even if they themselves don't have the answer, they will definitely hear you out and sympathize or empathize, and hear you out and encourage you, um, and be supported, because that's all that really matters. Even if you don't find the answers, they will be more than supportive of whatever you're trying to do or accomplish. And moving on from that is that make the change happen. The process itself is going to take a while. Of course, you're not going to see the changes that you're applying to yourself, either physically, emotionally, or mentally, in a short amount of time, and the short term kind of thing. That will appear later on in the long goal, after a couple weeks, months, even years. Sometimes you won't see that, but once you realize that you're going to the right direction, you're gonna realize that and be like, oh, look how far I have come to, and so it's about taking those small victories, because they will become a snowball effect of making those very small victories into, into bigger ones, because you gotta start small in order to make those big changes happen. So it's about accumulating the small victories until you get to that point where you're able to look around and say, oh, look at what I did, just for me to grow and develop and everything like that. So again, and the only thing you can compare to yourself is yourself. Nobody else. Everybody, life circumstances, upbringing, background, everything is different. Life happens very differently to everybody else. Even if you come from the same place, the same country, the same town, and everything happens differently. And so the only thing you can compare to yourself is who you are right now and who you were a day ago, a week ago, a year ago. It's the only thing you can do. So that's what I got for now. So hopefully I'll see you on the next one. If you're viewing this or listening to whatever platform I put out there, I appreciate you stopping by and listening to me. I hope that this feels relatable, or this somehow feels like you're being understood or has some sort of positive effect. Because that's what matters for me right now when it comes to doing this, is that there's some sort of lesson or positivity or something good out of this. Okay, that's what matters, right? So yeah, that's all I got. Hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Again, I appreciate you, and as always, stay safe, stay awesome. I'll see you on the next one. Signing out.